Being in a car crash is stressful enough, but having to wait nearly 2 hours for a police officer to respond can make the experience even more frustrating and, in some cases, even frightening.
Since Jacksonville Sheriff slashed his budget last year, eliminating 92 community service officer positions and 74 vacant police officer positions, the Highway Patrol has been trying to pick up the slack, responding to more crashes throughout Duval County. Channel 4 investigates. Our Adrienne Moore has been digging deeper into this story. She joins us now live to tell us how bad this problem is for everyone and what drivers need to know the next time they find themselves in a fender bender. Or worse, Adrienne?
Yeah, Mary and Tom, good evening to you. It really comes down to crime versus crashes. Sheriff John Rutherford tells us that he has to utilize his resources first and foremost to fight crime, not respond to traffic crashes. Now, having said that, he says he certainly understands the Florida Highway Patrol and the position that they're in, but he says that he can no longer compromise his own department to support another. So troopers are being forced now to prioritize. They first have to respond to those fatal and injury crashes and then move on to those fender benders. And that means for many, waiting up to 2 hours.
WHP, Davis speaking.
Hey, Inspector JSO, got a call for you.
Okay, what road?
It's going to be on Atlantic at Kingman Avenue.
You could call it a jurisdictional dance between the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office and the Florida Highway Patrol.
And can I get an ETA for you guys? I know y'all are busy today.
Like a jolt.
But for the Jacksonville driver waiting for an answer on the side of the road, it turned into a nearly 2-hour tango that left him stranded and frustrated.
They would get to us as soon as they could. That unfortunately, they were short of manpower.
That driver, John Higbee, was rear-ended a few months ago while driving here along Atlantic Boulevard.
And it just accordioned up right up to about here.
No one was hurt, but both drivers needed a crash report for their insurance companies.
So about 30 minutes later, I called 911 back and said we're still here and nobody's come.
After a passing JSO officer escorted the two over to a safe parking lot, that deputy left and time kept ticking away.
It's got to be frustrating, though. I mean, you didn't realize what their manpower situation was. What was going through your mind as you're making that second phone call?
Well, I was thinking, I wish they'd hurry up and get here.
But that hurry up and wait game is something FHP says is an unfortunate part of a new reality in response times.
On a day shift, if it's not raining, probably 25, 30 minutes, sometimes they'll go an hour. On the afternoon shift, where we have more crashes than we do on the day shift, then it's closer to an hour, and it'll go up to 2 hours.
State road enforcement has always been handled by FHP, but over the course of the last 30 years, JSO says it has gradually taken over responsibility in certain parts of Duval County as a community service. But with the loss of 92 community service officers and 74 vacant police officer positions due to deep budget cuts, Sheriff John Rutherford says he had no choice but to shift some of those enforcement duties back to FHP.
Now, I know they're struggling for resources as well. My problem is I do not want to pull resources out of neighborhoods where I'm trying to fight violent crime, pull that staffing out of neighborhoods to go work traffic crashes on state roads, which is their responsibility.
How many officers do you realistically need to cover this additional workload?
20 per shift. We need to triple the number of personnel that we have assigned to Duval County to realistically handle the workload.
Rutherford is quick to point out his agency is still covering about 70% of state roads in Duval County. Here's how it breaks down. State roads that fall under Zone 2, 3, and 4 are now enforced by FHP. Some of the major roads in those zones include San Jose, Phillips Highway, JTB, University, Atlantic, and Southside Boulevards. State roads in Zones 1, 5, and 6 are still covered by JSO. The major roads there include Martin Luther King Parkway, the 295 Expressway, and Lem Turner Road. On a typical day, FHP has 7 troopers for each shift, and with 3 shifts, That means there are about 21 troopers patrolling Duval County on any given day. Now, JSO, on the other hand, estimates that it has roughly 350 officers on patrol per day, and with 6 different shifts, that breaks down to about 58 officers out on the roads. That's more than double the number of FHP officers, and Captain Keith Gaston tells us it is something his agency is actively working to change. Statewide, the agency is looking to hire an additional 150 to 200 people over the next year. But how many of those troopers will be assigned to the Jacksonville area is anybody's guess. And even if they are assigned here, it's not a quick fix because it takes up to 9 months of training before a new hire is on patrol. In the meantime, Captain Gaston is crunching numbers that paint a dramatic picture of what his agency is up against. In 2011, FHP responded to more than 1,700 crashes between July 1st through December 31st. But fast forward to 2012 and the figures skyrocket to nearly 5,000 crashes during that same time period. That's a jump of more than 3,200 crashes, or a 103% increase in the last year, with no additional staff. While both agencies agree the community deserves better and will continue to fight for more resources, they encourage the public to speak up and demand more from our state and local leaders.
They need to let those folks know what the impact of these cuts are. And until they hear from the people, it's not going to be a priority.
Now, both agencies say they will continue to communicate on a regular basis, but right now don't have any official plans on making any adjustments to the zones we mentioned there in the piece or the responsibilities already in place. Although Sheriff Rutherford did tell us that it's his hope that one day FHP will be able to man and enforce 100% of state roads here in Duval County. Reporting live tonight, Adrienne Moore, Channel 4, the local station.
Adrienne, we all hit bad areas in our daily commutes. Did FHP mention what the biggest trouble spots are for wrecks in our area?
They did, and it may surprise you, it may not, depending on where your normal commute takes you, but they said the biggest problem area is I-95 approaching JTB. And as for the busiest time of the day, they say it's commute hours between 7 and 8 a.m. and around 5 p.m. And Mondays and Fridays are when they typically see the largest number of crashes.